starting a little bit late. My name is Ken. I'm with Northwestern University, in the School of Law. And we have here also with us Dan from University of Notre Dame. We're going to talk to you about this title here, Surprise, You've Been Served. And before we get started, though, anybody know what this is about, this session? It can mean several things, right? In terms of law school, in terms of law, you've been served as what? Subpoena, right? So served as a divorce papers or whatnot, right? Well, it's not about that. It's not even about food services. It's about customer service and support and how you disseminate that service to your constituents and your community. So we thought we'd kind of like put this in a context where it's interesting, but at the same time play on words since we're trying to keep it to the law school and the law, legal community. Anybody know what that is? What does that stand for? There is a prize if you get this. Anybody heard about this? I know it's effort, yes.
What's in it for me?
There you go. And we have a winner.
What's the prize?
What's in it for me? What's the prize?
Don't give me like this.
What's in it for you? There you go. That is actually paramount in terms of providing your customers service. What's in it for me? If you are on the receiving end of customer service, or you're requesting customer service, you always look at it from your vantage point. What's in it for me? Is that not true? Else you wouldn't ask for service, right? I put that up there, that's important because we're going to go back to what's in it for me. And then the phrase, the customer is always right. Is that true? Don't care.
No, but we make them think they are.
No, but we make them think. Back in the early 70s and 80s, this was the phrase that most corporations actually had you, well, if you were customer service or help desk, they always say, the customer's always right. Make them happy. But as time went on, we know that that's not always the case, right? Customer's not always right. The answer is sometimes, not always. And why I say that is because you know that as a customer, okay, from your vantage point, you know what is right and what is wrong and what's pushing the envelope in terms of making your person or support person miserable. I want to say that. You could yell and scream at the customer over the phone and say, hey, I need this, I demand this. Well, are you right in asking what you're asking? Is it over the edge? That's for you to decide. And most people know what's the one key ingredient for success. Anyone know that? Resources. And I'm talking about resources from three folds. Budget, dollars, okay. Staffing, as well as time. But primarily staffing, when we talk about resources. Is your staff properly equipped to handle all of these calls and services? That's for you to decide, for you to determine. Because you know your staff. If you're on staff, you know what you can provide and what you cannot provide. And above and beyond that, well, that's going to be a management issue. I want to point your attention to this PC staffing guideline. It's what you support, what you can and will do for your customers, and what resources you have available. This is from the Gartner Group back in 1999, but it still holds true today in terms of what you can support for your constituents. And I'm going to go through these in a little bit because we're talking about the flavor of staffing. It's both about you and your customer. The Type A type corporation. If you provide any type of level 1 help desk, it's one person for every 80 to 110 customer. Well, what does level A stand for? Type A. They're technology driven. They're willing to risk using immature, cutting edge, leading edge technology, and they have high technical requirements. Those are Type A's. And if you provide 3 levels of help desk, Your level 1 is help desk, level 2 is your administrators, and level 3 is the cream, the elite technical support people. Those are the staffing numbers that you should have when you accommodate a type A organization. Are you a type A organization? Who can think of an example of type A? Well, let's talk about Cisco or Intel. Are they high technology driven? Yes. Type B, they're moderate technology adapters. They use new technology. Once it's been proven, they enter the mainstream that have, and have standardized on things. And they have medium technical requirements. So we call them type Bs. And still the same thing holds true in terms of level 1, 2, and 3 for your help desk. It's 1 for every how many numbers of customers, depending on the level of support that you provide. And level C is basically technology laggers. Those are the people that use technology once they're proven stable. They replace the technology after obsolescence. And I see some people laughing because I think that applies to you. Okay? And they have low technical standards. And this is what you should provide in terms of that, the number of people that support your school. So say, for example, you have 1,000 people, right? Do you have 1 for every 200? That's for you to decide internally. Some of the current initiatives over at Northwestern, what we're doing is we're talking about things that you can do or management can do to help you improve your customer, your constituents' service and support. We talk about a transaction counter. We made it so that it looks like when you walk into a Best Buy or something like that, where you service the customers or the students. At Northwestern, we have a laptop requirement program. So the students bring their laptops to us, and then we help them. Right? So we've set up a counter so now it's not a free-milly. When they walk into the IT offices, it's not like open desks. They have an area to go. We post signs. Everything is very, very good and efficient. We have a check-in and out system now, very similar to library books, where you check in and out, and there's a due date on them. Okay? And if people don't come back with the thing, well, there's going to be a penalty or a late charge. We network our classroom projectors now so that we can have one console to monitor projectors if it either goes out, if it needs a bulb change, or if it even got stolen. And yes, that does happen. People just basically cut that off the top of the wall and walk out with it. There's posted office hours now, so everybody knows. We put it on the web. We put it outside the door. Everybody knows when we're open, when we're closed, and when they can expect or we're not expecting support. And they follow within those guidelines. It's basically just guidelines. And we do communication through email notifications. We have an IT newsletter that we send out every quarter. We also have updates through email, for Windows environments as well as your antivirus updates. So we tell people, this is when you should do it, and this is what you should do. And you give them small instructions about that. We have a standard load for faculty and staff, so that basically it limits the number of people that will have different desktop views. That will help improve on your resource of staffing to get closer to your number, whether you're level 1, 2, or 3, or type A, B, or C. The other thing is, for podiums, we have a uniform look now. I don't know if all of you have attended last year's CALI. If you haven't, I spoke last year in Seattle about the podium and lessons learned and whatnot. You could probably look at the archives. It's under AV classroom support. But we now have a standard AV podium for all of our faculty members. And that's really important because you don't want to be writing 5 or 6 different sets of instructions to how to use the podium. You want one type of instruction set so that they can actually move from classroom to classroom without having to think about it. We also order everything centrally now for faculty and staff orders. It's a central place. They come to IT to order. They don't do it on their own or have that ability to go out and get something that's non-standard to your area. That also decreases staff time because we have parts on site that we can fix, whether it be swapping out the keyboard or anything like that. It's all standardized. For the students, we have an Office a Microsoft Select program for the students. They have their own copy, so they don't have to be buying something that's non-standard. We also standardized, whether it be a laptop or a desktop, we standardized on that for the office. Mobile technology solutions, we told people that, hey, we do not support Microsoft Pocket PC OS. But we can help you on the Palm OS. And so when people ask for BlackBerries, we say, well, we don't really support that because it doesn't integrate with this, that, and that. And they say they're pretty receptive to it. It's communication that's key. And we're talking also about collaboration software, how we roll that out, and we also expanded student computing because, hey, most of our constituents are what? Our students and faculty and staff, right? What I want to talk about and expand more is on student computing. We've worked with Central Northwestern, and they developed a program that would actually assist the students when they're in their dorm rooms.
Northwestern's residential networking program strives to incorporate the Internet into every student's daily life. The residential networking student consultants are the backbone of the ResNet program by providing the first level of support to users in residence halls.
One of the additional challenges for Northwestern's Information Technology Department is to wire the residence halls such that each dorm room would offer one port per pillow. Each student would have their individual data ports and have access to Ethernet in the dorms.
The university runs using technology. It's our favorite way of communicating and our most effective way of communicating. It's the way I ask students to come and meet with me. I send them an email. I hardly ever anymore use a telephone to do that.
The internet has become a standard resource for anything. If you want to find a map, you look it up on the internet. If you want to know what a restaurant serves, you look it up on the internet. The first place I think to look nowadays when I want information is the internet. And it just helps all the much more when it's there that fast.
The technical challenges that faced the IT department when residential networking first started were advising students on which equipment to purchase. Other technical challenges were creating a staff or a volunteer pool of students that would troubleshoot students within the same dormitory.
There's the ResCon position, which is it's short for Residential Networking Consultant. And those are consultants who live in the dorms and who basically troubleshoot only that particular dorm that they are assigned to.
I lived in an all-girls dorm with about 27 women in it. And I invited them all to this fireside to talk about computers, to see how much they really knew and to share with them, especially about viruses, because viruses were a big problem on campus last year. So we talked about basic ways to use your computer, basic ways to find files, basic ways to update your virus software and get your computer to run faster for you.
If the parents or the students have questions, technical questions about their equipment, the ResCons are there to provide that. Another part of a ResCon's job is to assist in using the Internet Software Installer, which is a CD that we provide students with preset network configurations for both platforms. It also provides tutorials on how to use the software that we distribute at Northwestern.
It's fun to be able to go in and help someone who thinks that it's the end of the world because they can't get an internet connection, or they have a virus on their computer and they have to go out and buy a new computer. And it's fun to go in and introduce yourself, and you basically become their best friend.
So that's what we deal with in terms of the student dorms, how we deal with that. We actually have undergraduates in their dorms helping the graduates because they are part of the ResCon family there. Some future initiatives is that we're trying to do. One is the service level agreements. We want to make sure that everybody understands where we're coming from, what we're capable of doing, what we're not. We also want to improve on fax services for students. law students seems to use a lot of faxing capabilities or services. So we want to try to improve on that. And then also, we're going to do a meet and greet with our visiting faculty, as well as new faculty that comes on site, just to basically tell them, give them an overview of what we currently have and what we can do. With Central IT, we have what is known as a pre-scan also in the resident halls. They basically scan the network first and see if their laptops or computers are virus-free or updated or patched before they let them onto the internet. And then we also do infrastructure upgrades with Central IT, like extending network, the wireless network, and then putting spam filters on the emails. And I just basically want to extend thanks to people, give them credit where credit's due. Let's hold the questions until later. Wait till Dan presents, and then we can have a question and answer session.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, well, as Ken said, I'm Dan Manier from the University of Notre Dame, and I would like to just encourage you to think about some of the services that you provide and any questions that you have. Just keep track of those, and at the end, we'll do our best to answer those. Okay, so what does it mean? You've been surprised you've been served. It's not enough to merely satisfy the customer. Customers must be delighted, surprised by having their needs not just met, but exceeded. I'd like to show you one example of what might be meant by that. This is a commercial that some of you are probably familiar with. Just speed this up.
Healthcare technologies from GE. Delivering digital medical information how it's needed. Everything's going to be okay. Fast. Usually spotting you 94 MRI coming to the
Okay. I want you to look at his face. I don't know whether he looks surprised or nauseated, but he's just been served, okay? And I think he's surprised by the level of service that he received. A couple things to think about that occurred in that commercial. Did you notice that from the first service that he provided to the second, it got faster? I know this is specifically about a GE product, but in general, as we provide services, our staff and our ability to provide the service should get better. We should become more efficient. We should be able to anticipate the services. So in effect, surprising the customer that we're ready for them. Because all the services that we provide are specific to our institutions, I thought I'd give you a little bit of background about where I'm coming from. I've been in IT at Notre Dame for 15 years, the last 7 within the law school. We serve about 550 students and a little bit more than 100 full-time faculty and staff. We provide a very high level of service, a lot of hand-holding within the school, both for our students and for our faculty and staff. I'd like to show you just a quick little video about our environment.
I don't think there's anything like attending the school. It's got big football.
got the big quads. It's got the leaves changing in the fall. It's got the snow in the winter. It's got the beautiful spring. For a guy who came from San Diego, who has one climate all year round and hadn't experienced any of those things, it was just really a full experience for me, and fun.
Experience.
Okay, that's enough of that. And I think what I want to point out is I think a lot of universities and law schools use the line that you're a member of the family. Notre Dame is no exception to that. We say you're a member of the Notre Dame family. And what does that mean usually to the people that you're serving? They want a very high level of service. They want to be treated like you're a family member. That makes it kind of, that puts a lot more pressure on the service providers. But it also, sometimes it gives you a little bit of leeway. If they know that you're doing your best, your level best to provide them service, sometimes they'll cut you a little bit of slack if you don't have the answer for them right away. But in general, it's something that you're going to, at the end of the day, they want to be served, and they want to be served very well. Also at Notre Dame, I'm one of 5 IT staff members. We have a server administrator, a student computing manager, and a web manager. And all 3 of those people also provide some level of desktop support as well. And then we have an AV services operator. I'll talk more about staff in just a moment. Okay. A big part of providing the services is managing the resources, as Ken said. What we want to do in managing, let's get this done. Okay. So, how do we provide the services? There's three key points that I would want to go over here. One is to know the customer. How do we get to know the customer? One key way that we do that is we run surveys. We survey the students at least once per year. Usually I'll do that in the spring after the one else have had time to go through a semester and get some experience using our services. This past year, we just for the first time used some exam software, an exam software product in the spring, so I wanted to hold off until I could get some feedback on how they felt about that service. So in fact, I just sent the surveys out on Tuesday. Has anybody here used SurveyMonkey for surveys? We normally will do the surveys ourselves internally, but I just wanted to do a real quick and dirty survey to kind of get some initial responses. It's very quick. I highly recommend it for sort of those immediate. It's surveymonkey.com is where you would get access to this. For instance, this year, I wanted to send a survey not only to our current students, but I wanted to send it to the incoming students as well. It's something I haven't done before, but I felt this would be a good opportunity for me to understand what kind of computers they might be bringing in, what kind of expectations they might have for our services. So just to give you a quick idea, I sent this out on Tuesday, and you can see I have over 150 responses already. And this is the kind of feedback you get from this tool. I'm a little bit worried because it's showing that only about 65% of the students are saying that they have a laptop. In years past, it's been more in the 90% range, so I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe as more people respond, that percentage will go up. I'm asking them, specifically if they understand that we have a recommended laptop at Notre Dame, and if they are intending on buying it. And I got, I'm fairly happy so far that a little over half of the people who responded are indicating that they have bought it or intend to buy that laptop. I can see that they're all expecting that they're going to be able to use wireless network when they get there, which is good. We have that throughout our building and library. Most of them use Microsoft Word. And the other thing I wanted to do was just make sure that they were aware that we use, that we have the exam software for them to use. So the surveys are a good way to get to know your students. We also have small forums that we run with the students, both formal and informal. We work with our student workers quite a bit, and they're mostly law students. So we constantly ask them about our services and get feedback from them. And I'm also on all the student listservs, so I'll get ideas about what's going on, not only with technology concerns, but other parts of their life at the law school. And I might see that the Career Services Office, for instance, is having some event that they're planning on using some piece of technology that they haven't informed me about. So that's another good reason to monitor those listservs. With faculty, surveys haven't worked as well with them. I tend to work with them on a one-on-one basis, and I also get a lot of feedback from my associate dean. And again, we do a lot of hand-holding with the faculty. We'll even do house visits for setting up wireless networks in their house and that sort of thing. Maybe it's going too far with the services. So far, it hasn't killed our staff time, and it's been very well received by the faculty. And then as far as the staff computing, I have regular meetings with our other department heads in the law school, and we keep track of their needs that way. As far as knowing the product, this takes having a committed staff. You need to have staff that are interested in their jobs and being up to date on their product knowledge. And they also have to discern what products are going to work in your environment. And then delivery of service. We have our staff. I think they all have very good product knowledge, but some of them don't necessarily pick up on how the person wants the service delivered. Some people just want the service, they want the fix right away, and they don't want an explanation. They just want to move on. Other people want the fix and they want it explained so that they can avoid the problem the next time, or that they can fix it themselves. And sometimes people just want a little bit of reassurance too. Okay. So, a big part of providing the service is managing the resources. A big partner for me in providing services is our central IT office. They have the big money. I don't have as much money as they do. So I really depend on them for doing things like providing my network infrastructure. For instance, I installed our wireless network to begin with, but then now they have gone out and scaled it out, and they continue to maintain it for me. They also provide the infrastructure for our print service as well. We use the Farrell's print service. Classroom technology, they have a lot more classrooms than I do. So I look to them for consulting on what sort of technology I'm going to use in the classroom. For instance, this past spring, they plan to upgrade all of their projectors in the classrooms. And I'm now participating in that as well. It's given me a shot in the arm in terms of the pricing that I get for that technology. Okay. Probably, as Ken said, the biggest resource that you have is the staff. And I'm very fortunate to have a very good staff. One of my staff members, in fact, has won the student award the last couple of years for providing service. And but you get a real variety on your staff. And I've got one staff member in particular that I'm working with to increase their level of service. They do the job functionally very well, but in terms of how they how they interact with the customers are not really very satisfied with the level of service. So that's a difficult situation, but you need to address it. And all of us have, varying levels of resources and different jobs we provide, different ways that we work with central IT. But you need to bring those resources together and make the most of them. Okay. And finally, as a resource for my staff as the manager, I let them know that I want to be the heavy. If there's a policy issue, if no has to be given as an answer, I want to be involved because I understand what the politics are, what resources are available, and although I want to give them room to set policies in their areas, if there's something that gets especially difficult, I want to get involved and assist them. And then extra innings also. Like I said, we do some of these home visits, and we do the extra things. This past weekend, I went to the reunion weekend, and I got to meet folks who had graduated 50 years ago from the law school, and that helps in terms of just how you interact with the law school as a whole. You understand more of the history and how you can benefit the law school. I think people generally are, they're coming to us for a service. They're not always desperate for it, but they, you want to do your best in providing that service. I think that's where I'd like to end it, and we can take questions now on what kind of services you provide or any questions you have.
What level for both of you, what level of laptop support, for example, do you provide for your students? For example, if their laptop has some hardware issues, or maybe their operating system needs to be reinstalled, how far do you go with that?
What we do all 100% level of service for the laptop for the students if they participate in the Northwestern Law program. And what I mean by that is we do everything from the break fix of the hardware, and since we have them give us the CD for software, we would help them load that if they want us to. We will not load anything that's non-standard, such as Quicken or a game on there. We won't do any of that. We'll give them the antivirus, we direct them to the website where they can go to download free software from the university. And we also say, if you want to drop off your laptop for a day or 2 hours or whatever, we're more than happy to accommodate and service that.
I think something that Ken is doing that I'm thinking about doing as well. He's now Dell certified to do hardware repairs, and he gets reimbursed for those repairs from Dell. So that's something we're thinking about doing. Right now, we'll just have Dell come in and do the hardware repairs for us. Aside from that, though, we have a very high level of service that we provide. We'll back up the data files before we work on the machine to make sure that they don't lose anything as a result of reinstalling software. Those sorts of things.
Now, do they have to have stored all their data in a particular folder structure, or back up their entire hard drive?
It just varies. Sometimes they come in and they can't get the hard drive to boot, and in that case, we have a device that we can, we'll take their hard drive out and back up their data from an external connector that we can use. So it just varies. You can't really train the students to put all their data in one place. I've found, we tell them to back it up, they won't back it up, they won't put files in the same place all the time. We do provide, through central IT, file space for them on the network, and that's backed up nightly. So we really encourage them to put their critical files there. And as convenient as we make that space, they still won't put it there. So there's only so much you can do.
Yeah,
When
we
you
have-
say if they have to participate in the program, are they paying something to participate, or?
No. As long as they buy through the program of what we recommend, and we get the readout from Dell. We chose Dell this year.
Right.
We get the readout as who participates, and we can tell from the service tag that they are a participant, and we can help them. They have a 10 meg backup on our network, and we tell them back up. If they lose everything on their hard drive, and they didn't back it up, sorry.
Do y'all use a standard configuration, since you're using Dell laptops, when they purchase it, are the laptops being shipped directly to you for configuration for a standard image, or?
It's whatever they get from Dell. It's the OS,
Right.
and then we tell them to buy the Office, and it's what they got. We will load it up to where they first got their laptop, and that's it.
I tried to work on doing the standard load, and it was just too difficult because we have a campus license for Microsoft, and I could not get the university and Dell to work together so that we could handle the licensing properly.
We're looking at that, and we actually use CDWG as our vendor for our.
For both?
Well, we're not using Dell's, we're using Toshiba laptop, but we're looking at the possibility of doing a laptop program for the students, and they actually, we could, if we decide to go through that, we set the specification as to what type of laptop, and we could create the image and send it to CWG, and they will pre-install it before it's even shipped out.
Are they handling your Microsoft license?
Yes.
See, that's the benefit.
Yeah.
If you got one distributor that's handling all of it, then you can do something like that a little bit easier than if we're buying our Microsoft license directly from Microsoft, and then we've got Dell, and trying to bring them together.
It's not easy.
And it was too big of a roadblock for me to do this year. I'm going to continue to work on that.
Got another question though.
Okay, one more quick, and then we're going to jump to the gentleman in the back waiting patiently.
Okay. On the pre-network scan that you're using, what application are you using for, like, you're saying that for the students to actually connect to the network is
It's called
doing
NetPass.
What is it?
NetPass.
Okay.
NETPASS.
Okay, thank you.
Just one thing, like a question, I want to say something on the laptop thing. We hold several laptop connection sessions before school even starts. We've had about 90 to 95% participation in them. We have all the CDs, everything, sit them down for about 2 hours, everything, antivirus, everything set up, MSI packages, everything, and they're done. And then for the ones that say later, we have laptop connection kits with everything in it, implicit instructions. They take it home and do it themselves. It's great. But one thing I have a question about as far as customer support goes is, obviously the support we're providing is the same support we provided 10 years ago. And in 10 years from now, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. What kind of methods do you actually use, would you recommend, to keep abreast of what service you're going to have to offer from year to year to year due to changes, development changes?
We have what is known as a leadership retreat for the students. They're for 1Ls, and they basically call all of the senior managers from all the departments to attend. It's all the 1Ls. It's a 2-day thing, and they go retreat somewhere up in Wisconsin, and they say, what they believe is an issue within the department. They go through every single department, and it's not a bitch session. It's a session where they think that improvements can happen every year. That's for 1Ls. For 3Ls, we have what is known as a 3L exit survey, and what has worked for them over the last 3 years, what hasn't, and now it's all online, so then we actually, participation of that is very hard, so we hooked it with a cap and gown pickup. So after they pick up their cap and gown, they come out and they fill out the survey on the computer. So we kind of gauge throughout the year, and then midway through that in the year, we have basically from student affairs, they have a department greeting where all the department, they feed the students. It's a 4-hour thing, and all the students can come and eat and talk to anybody within IT, that's the feature department or whatever.
And we do regular surveys, but it's really hard. The student issues, in terms of what they want, I think is one thing. It's the faculty that I'm concerned about in terms of providing direction in the services. And I'll have faculty that ask for the one-off sorts of services. And I really have to stop and think about what happens if this faculty member tells the next faculty member who tells the next faculty member, I mean, yeah, I can do it for one, but can I do it for 40, 50, and or 5, 10, whatever how popular it would turn out to be. So if I do it, sometimes I ask them to just not tell too many people until we get a hold on how we're going to provide the service to more folks, and so that I can kind of systematically deal with the request. About that.
What are the home visits?
What are the home visits?
Yeah, what do you do with the green nose and who they are?
We don't do that.
Yeah, it's not something that we advertise, but for instance, we've got faculty members who they're getting DSL or cable service, and they're really not comfortable that their computer is being set up correctly by the service technician from SDC or Comcast. So those are the sorts of things. Or if they have a particular application and they want to have wireless throughout the house, again, they're not comfortable having an outside person come in. They're very comfortable working with my staff. So we've extended it. It hasn't turned out to be more than 2 or 3 times a semester sort of service, but it's just a little extra touch that's helped in those relations.
So it's faculty and staff?
It's mostly been faculty. I have had staff. We have done a little bit of that, and we'll if they're really stuck, we'll offer to let them bring in their computer, and we'll work on it as we can on the side. It doesn't receive a #1 priority necessarily. It's their personal computer, but we recognize that they're doing a lot of whatever else they're doing on the computer. They're every once in a while doing some work on those computers. So it's to our benefit to have them have something that's functioning at home.
Do you guys use student assistants at Notre Dame? If so, to what capacity do you guys have?
Yeah, we have, for instance, we have them tape our trial ad sessions for AV services and other tapings that we'll have for faculty lectures. We also have, particularly in the student lab, they man the printers and kind of maintain the lab for us as well. Right now we're looking at increasing the responsibility of at least 2 students to kind of a student computing manager and have them do more of the laptop triage for us. Because right now we haven't really been getting, they've been babysitting the lab for us and the paper supply and what have you, and we really want to get more out of that, out of the student. And we have students that, undergraduates in our computer science program, for instance, that are more than capable of helping us with triage on those laptops, for instance.
What kind of incentive do you offer them? Are they actually paid employees by the university, or do they receive other benefits?
Well, for the 2 that I just mentioned, we're going to increase the pay, so that would be a higher level of pay, and that's incentive for them in terms of being able to put that on their resume and get more money. So that's how we're approaching it right now. I know the College of Business is they've created some sort of fellowship or something that they provide for top level student computing employees, and I'm going to look at their model as well, possibility.
Yeah, and you basically pay them. Just laptop version and all that.
2 questions. What do you do about the students who did buy the program? And that's 100% of our students. And the second question is, if you provide a service, why don't you advertise it? If you're doing home visits, but it's a stealth program, we do the same thing. And what we find is we're treating people differently. And depending on the mood of the requestor or the person who receives the request, we get a different response. And that's not good for us.
Yeah. It's not ideal, and I don't disagree with that. I'd have to say I'll take that under advisement because I think it is. I don't want to treat anybody differently or unfairly based on who they are. We have not turned anybody down yet that I'm aware of. We'll try to encourage them if it's a if it's something that they can bring in, we'd rather that they bring in the machine. But if it's for connecting their home internet service, you know, that's that obviously we can't do.
The ones that do not participate in the laptop program, we give them two types of support. Well, two different types. We have to help them connect onto the internet or the network, so to speak. And we also have to make them be able to print in our libraries for library printing, which we use also Theros. And so those are the only types of support that we give them. Because we tell them during orientation time, we tell them prior to orientation, during admit time when they're admitted and not enrolled yet, and not during matriculation yet, but admitted prior to even stepping foot on campus, that this is the program that we have in place. And we also send them out binders and flyers telling them that you should participate because these are the advantages of participating. And if they elect not to participate, that's either because they either have one or no, they're very savvy, or whatever their reason is. And they're well aware of the type of support that they will not get.
Well, not only that, but if you would assume a laptop configuration requirement out there, if you don't set some sort of standard and stick with it, you would drive your IT staff into the ground, you won't have an IT staff anymore.
Well, I think that the struggle that we get into is we want to control everything on that student desktop. When you said Quicken, I thought, why not? Why not Quicken?
Because it's not part of our standard load.
Right.
And they're aware that we have a standard load.
I mean, we had the professor who assigned the project that may involve importing some sort of video clip that is not standard or whatever. And I think that we're sort of expected, and we do try to accommodate that student and meet the outcome that the professor wants to get. And the thing I really try to avoid is saying, that's not on our list.
We don't say that. We'll say yes to everything. However, if it's not within the standard operating of what we do, there is a fee for the service. Okay? Meaning, if it's not something that you currently support now, we'll be happy to help you.
Okay, so you'll charge them for that?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't take money. So I'm in that predicament. And we'll help them to install software if they have the licensing and they have the media. But I would have to say there would have to come a limit to it. I mean, if they brought in their whole library of stuff to reload, I mean, I don't have a policy written down that says we're going to stop after 5 applications. But basically, I think students are kind of reasonable about that. We'll say, look, what we'd like to do is help you reinstall your OS and your Microsoft Office and recommend that you install the rest of it. And people, they've been receptive to that.
That goes back to what I was talking about, is the customer always right? And they know that they're pushing the envelope. They'll know.
Do you have a written policy that they have to sign before you ever touch their computer?
We have a sign-in sheet for the laptops as they come in. Now, there's not a lot of language on there about liability, but that's something that we've thought about doing a little bit more detail on. I don't know if you do something like that when you check on equipment.
Question?
What are the hours that you provide support?
What are the hours we provide support? Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. And then on critical dates such as orientation, the final exam period, we have a pager that's currently hooked up to our main help desk line. On any of those hours outside, that's not Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. If they leave a voicemail, it'll ring to the pager whoever's calling. Now, people have not, thank goodness, abused that policy, and they have been calling us all through hours now.
We're the same way, but our student assistants in our lab are there until 10 o'clock at night, and so they're there to basically, again, babysit the lab, but they can handle some limits of triage, and we want to increase their ability to do that as well.
Have you ever gotten requests, because I've gotten requests from faculty and from students, where I've had a student call one of my staff members at home on a weekend because they couldn't get on the internet to order Peacock. Really. So, but they've asked for 24/7 support. You get it everywhere.
Yeah. Not specifically, but our operations, our central IT office, their operations office is open 24/7. So the internet is down. They can call that number and they can get more information. But that's, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, if it's only them that's having the problem, they're not likely to get help until the next day.
We've had those requests, and say we can educate them and say, hey, look, we're not open. Those are not the hours.
Right.
They can't say that they haven't been informed because we send them multiple flyers and emails, even though they don't read it.
Ken, you had mentioned that you centralize or only support the PDA software with Palm OSs and not the Windows or any other formats. How did you implement that? Meaning, like, how did you come about that only the Palm OS would be supported? Poll staff and faculty to see which would be the most.
What do we do to say we won't support the Pocket PC OS?
Exactly. At our university, they're not really funded. Some people bring in their own phone or whatever, and I need this to be able to link up with this, and there's really no set standard as to who uses what or what we're supporting.
We told the faculty members, these are the applications that are standard load. If you want to get email, you use Eudora. And if you want to get meme maker, that's what we use for calendaring, the OS, the Palm OS, will accommodate you. If you want to get anything outside of that, you won't get the service. And from there, they said, okay.
Right, now you said you provide support, extra support on student exams. You're only use like secure exams, something like that?
We are.
Okay, what level of support are you giving that, for exams?
Well, it was our first time through, and so it was a lot of hand-holding. We had about 16 training sessions throughout, just trying to get them to show up and make sure that they were ready for it. And then during the exams, we're very clear, and they do have to sign. We've got a form for them to sign in this case. That's very specific. If they've got a problem, they reboot the machine one time, and if they can get back in the exam, that's fine. But if they got some other issue that's going on, we tell them to close the laptop and start using a Blue Book, because we are not going to try to do a repair for them in the middle of an exam. And they don't get extra time either. So if it takes 5 minutes to reboot the laptop, they do not get any extra time at the end of the exam.
Do you do immediate file recovery, like a laptop crash or something?
We will, yes. We will go and get the backup file that's created in the secure exam for them, and then we'll print that out and combine it with their Blue Book.
Do you do that immediately though, or do you do it at a set time or anything?
Well, generally, it's only happens out of 1,000 exams that we process. I think it happens 2 or 3 times. So we're doing it really right away, within a couple of hours after the exam.
Yeah, we've used ExamSoft for several semesters, and it's the same thing where I've had, like this last term, I had a handful of students that basically didn't follow the instructions that were given to them numerous times, and as a result, either they had problems where they couldn't get into their exams, and the same thing, it's like, you don't have time to troubleshoot, you're not going to get extra time. I suggest you go ahead, take the start with the Blue Book, you can stay in here, you don't have to go back to the other classroom. And then there's about less than half a dozen that actually, for one reason or another, their exam file did not, or their answer file didn't upload properly. And either I did it immediately then or had them come to my office immediately after the exam to take care of it.
Yeah. Now, I'll say this too. I said 16 training sessions. I do expect that's going to go down because as we're only going to be dealing with the 1Ls and transfers as we move forward. And they're all going to get more familiar with the product as well, just in terms of what shape their laptop is in going into the exam. We had one person, we had a practice session, and the person knew that their computer was chock full of viruses and pop-ups and everything else, spyware, and they took it anyway. And they're learning that they've got to take some responsibility ahead of time.
Have you set minimum standards as for what operating systems are allowed to take exams off to use them?
Yeah,
we have to.
There is. That's all part of the
Well, we've said, I've told our students that we'll only allow you to take an exam if you're using either a Windows ME or either XP Pro or Home or 2000. We will not support anything with either 98 or below, and don't show up with Macs because you will not be allowed to take the exam.
We actually support the Macs on the secure exam, and that's, but it's been a little bit of an issue because there's not a level of consistency in the directions and just how they process at the end of the exam.
Yeah, we're getting a more defined structure and procedure for the students and the faculty as we're creating their exams. We set deadlines as to when they need to start doing it, and we did that this first time this past term, and overall it ran fairly smooth.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about surveys that you do. You said you do one a year?
There's one major one from me, but there's also other surveys that are run. The library runs their own survey. Try not to over-survey them because they just won't respond. We really incent.
How is your response?
Well, I'm pretty happy with so far. I've got over 150 responses out of 550 potential respondents. 2 days, I think that's pretty good. Generally, it just varies. It depends on when you hit them. You got to time it right so that they're not in the middle of getting ready for exams or getting ready for spring break or what have you. So we generally run anywhere from 20 to 50%, and that's it's hard to get a lot more than that.
Is the survey kind of like an evaluation type of thing, or are you trying to collect information?
I'm doing a number of things, including marketing. I want to get evaluations. There's on the 2 and 3L surveys that went out. There's a piece on there on the exam for them to let me know what they think of the service they've been receiving and what other services they'd like to have. And I get just a whole gambit of responses in that area. But on the incoming students, I wanted to market to them that yes, we have a recommended laptop where you're aware of that, and we do exam software, and just to kind of get them ready and to set some expectations for what they're going to have, what services are going to be available to them.
If you want to get a good response on your surveys, one thing we did, we tied it to their financial aid. So
wow. We do gift certificates. I didn't worry about financial aid.
Last question.
How do you manage or track service requests?
We use a application called Help Track, and it's every time there is a call or a service, a house call being done, let's say, going out to service somebody, or anybody coming in, the technician is required to log in and input that request in.
We don't have anything formalized right now. We have sort of a paper system that we're using just on individual laptops as they come in for that program. But the central IT office has a new system we're thinking about adopting. So we don't want to make that too intensive. I mean, you want to make sure you track everything, but you don't want to add too many steps and too much work on the process as well.
Thank you, everybody, for
coming. Thank you.